Gospers would have been a much better country today, honestly. Having said that, that poor little 12-year-old you beat's probably off in Tora Bora training to be an Al-Qaeda rep right now. Who knows? Swings and roundabouts, my friends. Swings and roundabouts. To open the window on this mysterious man we have come to love. Ladies and gentlemen, could you please welcome James's close friend, Dean Theseus. Dean.
Well, hello ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dean, friend of both the bride and the groom, but for the purposes of this speech, mainly the groom. In keeping with the theme of today, the photo montage, I've also created a little bit of a history of James that will go along with this speech, so I do encourage you to perhaps look at the screen up here and stay with me as we go along. So I guess James and I met through work at Foxtel, and in 2006 we found ourselves sharing a place together for around 6 months. We'd been friends prior to moving in, however in those 6 months it really solidified that friendship considerably. And in that time, you know, he's proven himself to be not only a great friend but a truly good man, and someone whose friendship I value greatly. And I feel very honoured that he's asked me to say some words here today on such an important day as it is for him and Ainsley. As for Ainsley, well, it's quite accurate for me to say that I've known her equally as long as James has, as it was James and I that attended that party together on that balmy night back in February 2006, where James and Ains first met, locked eyes, locked lips, and shortly thereafter, probably more on the banana chair near the court. Which made a lot of people at the party somewhat confused, because most people at the party thought that James and I indeed were a couple. And did think it rather strange that a gay man was getting rather friendly with one of their female friends. For James's part, 2 kids later, he's trying his very best to keep that chit-chat to a whisper. So listen, it was with mixed emotions that I'm here tonight. Happiness and sadness. Happy because I get to talk about a good mate. Sad because I've had to remain somewhat sober up until this point in time. Mark, his brother and his immediate family weren't able to make it here today from overseas, which I know was upsetting for James and Ainsley and the whole family, and equally so for Mark and his family. But I promised to do my best by speaking about my good mate James and try to keep this speech to a minimum, if not shorter. So, Ainsley, I do want to say you do look amazing today. You look absolutely stunning. James is a very lucky man. So that kind of leads me to the thought that I'd like to talk about tonight and expand on. So we know James likes a good deal. He loves a bargain. And James has done very well indeed by snaking Ainsley. I guess the question is Ainsley getting a good bargain here in James? So, there's only one way to know for sure. I've put together a 3-point reference check for you, Ainsley, and we're going to go through that today. What should you look for in a good husband? I think it comes down to 3 things. Understanding his past, looking at things like skeletons in the closet, responsible behaviour. Is he a reliable, sensitive, modern sort of guy? And last but not least, is he relatively sober? So let's start with the first one. So to truly understand how someone will be in the future, you've got to look to the past. What sort of person was James, or Jamie, when he was younger? So to answer this question, I enlisted the help of his brother Mark, who helped fill in a few gaps and provided some photos from the years past. So throughout this speech, you'll see what might, you just might want to keep your eyes on the screen. So Jean, to see this calm, self-assured man sitting before you here today, you might be surprised to know that as a child, James was a rather compulsive fiddler, always pulling, pushing buttons and levers. Mark was telling me the story of one day while in a car when seatbelts were still a novelty of the distant future. James chose the wrong moment to fiddle with the car door handle while his mother was driving around the corner. The door popped open, centrifugal force had its way with him, rolling him out on the road while the car was travelling at some speed. Quite possibly the car that you see in the next shot or two. Now his mum didn't notice until a few moments later when she happened to look into the rearview mirror and see a 4-year-old James running through the road after the car, shaking his fist and screaming. I think he learned early on he learned the early lesson how to duck and roll while coming out of a speeding car, a skill that's come in handy over the years. As it was only a few years later, as you can see there, that James did have an incident and was hit by a car, requiring to be on his kung fu crutches for some time. So, if we fast forward a few years, we find that James as a mature, responsible young adult, right? So last weekend, a few of the boys got out for a round of golf as part of the Bucks Day, which makes sense now, as James has had a long-term love affair with golf. Well, when I say golf, I mean, for example, when his parents were living in a gated community on a golf course in the Bahamas in the late 80s, as you can see there, James used to visit on holidays from his US boarding school, essentially a glorified reform school for young offenders. But one of his favourite pastimes was taking out his dad's golf cart at night with some friends and racing them along the course fairways. James took particular pride in the fact that their cart was the fastest of the bunch, even asking his dad if he could paint lightning bolts down the side. Racing golf carts progressed to golf cart skiing, where the carts would tow barefoot skiers along the dew-covered fairways. Finally, racing and skiing escalated to bunker jumping, where James and his mates would try to see how much height and distance they could get driving their carts at high speed off the mounted lips of the bunkers, which all came to a crashing halt one morning when his dad got an angry call from the greenskeeper saying there were golf cart wheel furrows and bumper indentations in the 18th green.
There was circumstantial evidence on that.
Like he does now, he denied everything. But as his dad said, it couldn't have possibly been a little boy, but subsequent inspection of the golf cart, which was covered in sand, mud and turf, suggested otherwise. Still, who doesn't have a skeleton or two in their closet? Perhaps someone that looks like that. Anyway, he's not a kid anymore, and when he puts his mind to it, he can be almost